Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. Today I'm joined by my politics team colleague, Kyle Ingram, and local government reporter Anna Roman, who covers Raleigh and Wake County. Happy candidate filing week 2. Here we are into December, and we've already had a lot of candidates that have filed that they're running into the 2026 primary. A lot of the ones we expected, former Governor Roy Cooper, he filed. He's running for U.S. Senate, and so is Republican Michael Whatley. Senate Leader Phil Berger filed for re-election, and his primary opponent as well, Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page. So this week, we are going to talk about, in the first half, the Raleigh mayor and city council races, Wake County races, which is why we have Anna on. Anna, thank you for joining the podcast again.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the mayor of Raleigh. Tell us about that race.
Very quiet, honestly. Only candidate that has filed so far is Janet Cowell. She was elected 2 years ago, and she is running for re-election. There were some rumors that a former council member, David Cox, who used to serve District B, was considering running, and he has decided he's not. And so far, it looks like it's going to be a very lonely race. We might have some candidates who kind of run all the time who might join last minute, but I'm not hearing of any other major contenders.
Anyone else on city council that might want to move chairs, or are people already filing running for re-election?
People are filing for re-election. In fact, every single person is running for re-election except for one council member, Jonathan Lambert Melton, who is actually going to be running for one of 2 at-large districts for the Wake County Commissioners. And we can talk about that in a bit. But there are some races shaping up in the Raleigh City Council, including in District E, which is northwest Raleigh. We have a former Raleigh City Council member, Mark Scuggs, who is filing to run against Christina Jones, who is the incumbent who has already served 1 term. And so far, there's another matchup in District A, Mitchell Silver, who was elected last time. He is running against Whitney Hill, who is a Republican candidate who has run a few times before. And so far, it's just a lot of incumbents. It's very curious. I don't know if it's the timing of the election. Raleigh changed when it's running its elections, and it's catching some people off guard, but there's not a lot of candidates so far.
Who, you mentioned Council Member Jones, her opponent. When did he serve on city council?
Oh gosh, early 2000s when I was looking. So it's been a minute. It's been a while since he has been on council. But I think he actually served with Janet Cowell, who is also a former council member from the early 2000s.
And former state treasurer too, I believe, right?
Yep.
So I know these campaigns haven't really started in earnest, but I always wonder, with these local races, how often are state politics sort of intersecting with the dialogue around them? Because there's a lot they could talk about. I mean, they talking about the fact that we don't have a state budget? Are they talking about teacher pay? How does that come about?
Not so much with city council, though it's interesting. I do think that there is, with the mayor having some experience at the state legislature, obviously, and being a former treasurer, I think she does have some connections, obviously, to the governor's mansion and then also with state legislature. And so I think there is some connection there, but it isn't talked about as much versus on the county commissioner side, where there's a lot of focus about Medicaid, public education, how much funding they're going to get from the state or not get, that sort of thing. But I say most of the issues that are happening around the city of Raleigh is about affordable housing growth, which obviously some of that does translate to the legislature. I think they're always very curious about what they're going to be doing, changing zoning or allowing things by right, but that's more of a playing defensive with their lobbyists.
And tell us more about Mitchell Silver, because he lived and worked here and then worked in New York and came back.
Yeah, so he is actually the city's former planning director. He was a town employee, and then he went and became a parks commissioner for New York City. And he still does a lot of traveling for his consulting work and his professional work with parks. And he has been back now for 2 years, and he's been mostly focused on transit and then also a lot of planning. The city is in the process of updating its comprehensive plan, which is its new guiding documents that are going to be out soon, or for leading into the couple of years. And yeah, he's been very involved with that.
What does that mean for, a lot of our listeners, if they don't live in the city of Raleigh, they work here, they come here. So what does that change, I guess, the planning as far as how that affects people who are visitors or people that come here, legislators that are coming here to work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. What happens in Raleigh does obviously have ripple effects to all of the outside municipalities, and then in the suburbs and also in the Greater Triangle. They can sometimes set the tone of what various municipalities are doing on growth and housing. They took a very strong stance on missing middle, which is a very controversial zoning reform that allows different types of housing to be built. That happened in 2021, 2022. And since then, I've been seeing other municipalities also talk about it. Durham has passed some similar regulations. Chapel Hill passed some recently. And so there's this kind of trickle effect of what happens in Raleigh can potentially affect other places.
We should mention, since we're talking about local governments and the legislature, that if you're listening to this on Tuesday, it hasn't been canceled yet. We're awaiting inclement weather as we record this on Monday, but House Oversight is bringing in Chapel Hill, Carborough schools for what they are going to scrutinize how much they're following the anti-DEI legislation. So that's something else we'll be watching this week. And our Orange County local government reporter, Tammy Grubb, will be following that. Let's move on to Wake County and some of the names that are already out there with candidate filing or declared.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a little bit of a change for the Wake County Commissioners. Through legislation pushed by Aaron Perret, they now have 2 at-large commissioner districts. And so there are several people who are running for those seats because there aren't very many new opportunities to kind of run unopposed on a government board in Wake County. We have Steve Rao. He's a Mooresville Town Council member. We have Christine Kushner, who is a former school board member. I know Jonathan Lambert Melton is planning on filing. I have not seen his name in yet. And then those are all Democrats. There's several other Democrats, including Mona Singh, Robert Mitchner. Am I missing anyone that I've already filed? And then we do have our first Republican, Gary Hartong. I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name correctly, so apologies, but he is the president of the Wooten Company, which is a very major construction and engineering company here in Wake County. So that'll be interesting to see. But the board is all Democrats currently. So it'll be interesting to see if Republicans can kind of tap through.
Tell us more about what Kyle was asking. You said it's the county more than the city where the General Assembly is a factor in there. Is it a lot of discussion around, the county being asked to supplement teacher pay, or what are kind of the issues that come up at that county level where, I've sat through a lot of local government meetings where they're mad at the legislature for something. So what do you hear in those Wake County commissioners meetings?
I would say the primary one is about school funding. You see it happen every budget cycle with Wake County, which they approve their budget by July 1st every year. They have to, and unlike some other governments, it's very interesting because you have the school board and the teachers and the NCAE coming out and saying, we need more funding from the legislature, but if we can't get it from them, we need your support. So it puts the Wake County commissioners in this very tough situation where they are having to kind of fill in the gaps. And then I will also say, before we get too far, that there are commissioners who are running for re-election in District 1, 2, 3, and 7. So that is Vicki Adamson, Cheryl Stallings, Sophia Jackson, and Don Mile.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about local things like that new City Hall construction in downtown Raleigh and statewide races, including Supreme Court race that Kyle is covering. We'll be right back.
Here's a quick podcast for all you true crime fans. The case of the missing Reeses. It was me at the store with my mouth. Motive? They're Reeses. What was I going to do? Stop myself? Tune in next time to see if I do it again. Spoiler, I will. Wow, that had everything. Reeses, suspense, Reeses.
This episode is brought to you by White Claw Surge. Great podcast pick, friend. No surprises there. After all, you're all about finding the tastiest flavors out there, just like White Claw Surge. And with big, bold flavors to enjoy, like blood orange, blackberry, cranberry, and more, it's time to go all in on taste. Unleash the flavor. Unleash White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. 8% alcohol by volume. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with Raleigh and Wake County reporter Anna Roman and my state politics team colleague Kyle Ingram, who, if you hadn't heard, is our democracy reporter. So you can look more for democracy-focused stories on Kyle's beats. Okay, Kyle, let's turn to you also for candidate filing with the Supreme Court race. Current House member Sarah Stevens is running for the state Supreme Court. This is going to be a big race to watch. You talked to her when she filed this week. So bring us up to speed for people who aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, so Sarah Stevens is a Republican, and she's taking a sort of non-traditional path in this race. She's a longtime state lawmaker who is making her first bid for higher office by running for Supreme Court. It's not something that we've seen a lot in North Carolina, this sort of progression from legislator to judicial member. Most of the people on the Supreme Court have had previous careers in lower courts or as lawyers, and Sarah Stevens is also a lawyer, but we spoke to her outside candidate filing last week and sort of talked about this path for her. And the fact that, as a sitting member of the Supreme Court, if she were to be elected, there's always the potential that she could be called to weigh in on the constitutionality or legality of a bill that she wrote or voted on when she was in the legislature. And so we asked her about that, and she said, if she felt strongly compelled on the issue, she would recuse herself. But otherwise, she said that she's not afraid to admit that she's wrong and that she would be open to hearing arguments about the constitutionality of legislation, even if she'd helped write it. So that's going to be a really interesting dynamic to this race. She's, of course, running against the incumbent Justice Anita Earls, who is one of the only two Democrats on the high court. It's an interesting race because judicial candidates are somewhat prohibited by the state's judicial ethics code from talking too in depth about specific issues that might come before the court. So it's a little bit harder for them to campaign on issues. And when they do campaign on issues, they sort of get criticism for potentially biasing themselves against future cases. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out if they talk more about their experiences, more about their values, rather than getting deep into the issues about things like gerrymandering, which is a big conversation happening in our state and across the country right now.
Do you think, this race is different, I guess, than the past Supreme Court where they may be eclipsed by other things on the ballot? Of course, U.S. Senate is going to be on the ballot and everyone at the General Assembly. So that's a lot of people, 170, 120 in the House and 50 in the Senate. Of course, they're not all on everyone's ballot. It's just your own district representatives. But what's really different about this race that you're already seeing signs of as far as what we can expect in 2026?
Well, like with any down ballot race, there's always the potential for it to get caught up in national tides. I talked to Chris Cooper, who's a political scientist at Western Carolina University, who said that there's reason for Democrats to be cautiously optimistic about this race, even though they have lost some recent high-profile judicial elections in the state. With a name like Roy Cooper at the top of the ballot, he has a lot of name recognition among North Carolinians. People are familiar with him. That may drive Democrats to the polls. But it is interesting that even though this election is very important, it's for a very consequential court that has really shaped policymaking in the state in recent years, this election itself isn't really going to have that much impact on how the court rules in the next few years. Republicans have a 5-2 majority on the Supreme Court. There's only one seat up for election this year, and that is Anita Earls, who is a Democrat. So really all that can come of this is either we maintain a 5-2 Republican majority or Republicans increase their majority to 6-1. But this is important for Democrats to position themselves for 2028 when 3 of the Republicans are up for re-election. That can make or break the majority right there.
All right. Well, we'll be watching that and talking with Kyle more about this all in the many months to come. And I wanted to turn back to you about a downtown Raleigh construction project, the new Raleigh City Hall that's been going up, that I feel like everybody is kind of wondering what the latest is, what it's going to look like. We're seeing it take shape. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been, oh my gosh, it was long debated before they finally decided to move ahead with it. Originally, the idea was 2 different towers, one where the building is currently, and then one where construction is actually happening, these kind of 2 towers at 20 stories each. So far, they've just decided to move on with 17 stories at the former police headquarters right there at the corner of Hargett and Dawson, I believe, or McDowell, excuse me. And it's interesting. Construction has begun. It's supposed to wrap up by late 2026 and moving in. They estimate March 2027. I don't know if that will still happen. That's maybe a little optimistic, but they did just have the topping out ceremony where they put the highest beam up there in November. So work is underway, and I hear it all the time when I am at City Hall.
Are they going to, once they open the new building, will they vacate the old building, or have they decided what to do yet?
They will definitely be vacating and consolidating a lot of the downtown buildings and leases that they have into this new facility. It's also going to be where the new town hall in our new municipal council chambers is going to be. And it's supposed to be very nice. And the first floor is going to have some sort of, they want it to be very opening. They want it to be very welcoming and interacting with Nash Square, which if you recall is right there across the street, having some sort of public opening plaza. So it'll be interesting to see what they plan for that.
All right. We'll be watching for that. Anna, I'm going to stick with you and turn to our picks for Headliner of the Week. You've been covering some really interesting local government news in Wake County that we haven't talked about yet. So tell us your headliner.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of stuff that's been going on with the town of Cary, which is a municipality that I don't normally cover, but I am covering because their town manager was placed on paid administrative leave. A town manager is the top city employee for a municipality, for folks who aren't familiar. The town has not said why he's been placed on administrative leave, and in fact, has not returned any of our phone calls or emails over several weeks about what's been going on. And so we've been doing some very intensive investigation. As part of that, we submitted several public records requests. And one thing that came out was that a council member, Lori Bush, had her master's tuition reimbursed by the town of Cary. It was about $37,000. She was going to Northwestern for a 1-year master's program in public policy. I have not seen that. I have not seen where other elected officials have had their academic degrees paid for in sort of professional development. And so since then, Lori Bush has returned the money when it became public through a public records request. And she said that she did it for professional development and that she felt like she was in the right and that she had got it cleared from the town, but it found out that several council members didn't know that that expenditure had happened. So they have another meeting tomorrow and we are planning on being there to ask some more questions.
So that'll be tomorrow's Tuesday. So when people will be listening to this, and there'll be more, you can read all of Anna Roman's coverage in the News and Observer about all sorts of local government drama that we all should know about. Moving on to my pick for Headliner of the Week, it's about food and cafeterias. We talk about the legislative cafeteria a lot on this podcast. There's another cafeteria, a bigger one that's been around longer that a lot of people have eaten at, and that's K&W Cafeteria. I've been a longtime fan in 2 states, in North Carolina and Virginia. I'd stop at every one I'd see, like on a 40 exit. The one at Village District in Raleigh is the one that I like the most. Unfortunately, It never reopened after COVID times. And then all of them all of a sudden shut down. I literally have a K&W mug and a t-shirt that I bought once when there was some anniversary they were celebrating. I just like the whole thing about it. It's everybody went, it was affordable, a range of food, and no offense to the Legislative Cafeteria, but more options. And I wrote in our Under the Dome Sunday newsletter that focuses on the governor that even the governor ate there and talked about that location. So I feel like everyone has been at KW at one point in time. So RIP to K&W. All right, Kyle, moving on. What is your pick for headliner of the week?
Mine is looking forward to this week's Capitol Christmas tree lighting. Excited to attend that. It's been looking kind of snowy today. We might be able to get some flurries, so it'll feel especially Christmassy if that's still in the forecast when we're able to see that.
If you go, you should check out Illuminate Art Walk. It is the 20 different light-themed art pieces that are around downtown that are a lot of fun. I wrote about that this week. There's these trumpet flowers outside on City Plaza that make a lot of fun noise.
I'm excited to see all of this stuff at Light. That's really cool stuff that they have. All right, we're out of time. Thanks to Anna Roman, local government reporter, for joining us again. I'm Dawn Vaughan, and for Kyle Ingram, producer Kevin Keister. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.